Hello! Linux for Hope is hosting an online event consisting of panelists who will be able to advise individuals who would like to enter the tech industry. Here's one of our panelists sharing their journey in tech. If you would like to have your questions answered about how to join the tech industry, as well as learn more about the online event, please visit events.linuxforhope.org.
Hi, my name is Mike Botsko, and I'm a software engineer 3 at 2U. I've been messing with computers since a very young age. I had access to computers at home and in school, and it always interests me messing around and seeing what I was able to come up with. I find that a lot of, you know, expanding your knowledge with technology tends to be experimenting with it. Lucky for me, in high school, I had the opportunity to take multiple computer science courses, which is where I was able to pick up fundamentals in Java and C++, ultimately kind of giving me guidance on what I would end up wishing to do with my career. I had to make a choice, obviously, going to college, and I ended up deciding that I wanted to pursue a career in tech after seeing firsthand the way that that technology continued to change the world around me. Technology has pushed the horizon in so many different ways. There are medical advances, self-driving technology, machine learning that continues to amaze me. And so I really see being a software developer as having really limitless opportunities. So, going to college, I pursued a degree in computer science. There, I got more opportunities to explore and experiment. I got involved in my local chapter of ACM, which is the Association for Computing Machinery. And, there with the campus club, I was able to experiment making an Android application, running Linux as my main operating system, and creating web applications. I am still in technology because I enjoy building software with, the newest and greatest technologies. Oftentimes at work, we're going to try out and experiment with the latest thing, and sometimes it's hacky, it's a bust, and you can't really use it. But other times it's really cool and solves a lot of the problems that you just had to deal with for like maybe the past 2 or 3 years with using the latest and greatest technology, and then it becomes superseded. I also enjoy engineering culture. I enjoy working with like-minded engineers. I find that working with people who think like me means that they challenge me to come up with the best solutions for problems. And then on the flip side of it, maybe we're going to argue about some Dungeons and Dragons. It's a nice culture. I like working with it. Also, the salary and benefits are hard to beat. Generally, you're going to find excellent compensation and very generous time off. I prepared for my career first and foremost by getting my bachelor's degree in computer science. But while I was in school, it was a common saying that a degree alone won't get you a job. So I ended up spending a lot of time extracurricularly with my peers, picking up skills that weren't in my school's curriculum, working with Git, servers, trying out different, areas of tech, because generally your curriculum at your four-year university won't necessarily translate directly to what you're going to be doing out at school, outside of school. So, this led me to pursuing hackathons, which gave me opportunities to see the different ways that you can practically apply technology in a more realistic setting, but also still more experimental. You got to see the different types of ways you can apply APIs and really push the bounds of something within 24 hours, which is something that you don't get to do in school or really in industry. It's kind of a unique thing, which is why hackathons have a special place in my heart. Another way I got started with my career was an internship. I worked at IBM as an intern for over a year. This gave me a lot of exposure to industry standards when it came to code, like testing your code, creating build pipelines, doing quality assurance and deployments. When it came to needing to prepare for job interviews, I went the classic route. I got Cracking the Coding Interview, a very popular book for interview preparation. Me and my friends would have sessions where we'd practice interviews with questions from the book and rotate being the interviewer. Highly recommend practicing interview questions on a whiteboard. It normalizes the experience of the interview and breaks you out of the comfort zone of like just typing up code on your computer, and kind of puts you into that semi-nervous state of like writing code on a whiteboard, which we don't generally do in our day-to-day activities. Learning to develop in a Linux environment was a big boost. It gave me experience working within a command line, creating development environments for my projects, and debugging issues that weren't directly related to my code, like problems using third-party dependencies. A lot of the skills I picked up using Linux as my main operating system were very transferable to work, and that was a big boon for me. I also found that working with other developers helped expose me to new technologies and challenge me to find better solutions. This gave me the opportunity to grow and to improve throughout my journey in the tech industry. So having a either community of people that can push you further in tech, or having that kind of relationship with your colleagues at work, is a great way of expanding in your journey through the tech industry. I've worked remote since before it was cool now. I have been working remote for 4 years, so before the pandemic. And I've been doing so since my former company that I worked for, Critique It, was acquired by my current company, 2U. And working remote is interesting. It definitely provides you incredible flexibility. You can, in some ways, if your employer allows you, define your own hours, take longer breaks, but then make them up later. And that kind of flexibility is amazing. But you also have to find different ways of getting social interactions and networking with your peers, because when you're just video calling with people in the office, you're really not going to get the same connection with your peers. So it's been a journey trying to find ways to bridge that gap. And I think I can thank the pandemic in a lot of ways for expediting that process. Once everybody needed to move remotely, a lot of things became easier. Instead of having conference calls with maybe 3 remote folks and one big room where it was difficult to communicate with in a conference room, now suddenly everyone is on a call and everyone has the same way of communicating. So at that point, it becomes a lot easier to have your voice heard and to discuss with others. So being remote, I think, is probably the most unique thing to my particular experience, having done it so long. I would say that the biggest challenge I've encountered is frequently changing work environments. When I first went into industry, I had landed a web development role, but I had very little experience with web development. So for a while there, I really needed to ramp up and learn how to work with JavaScript and different web terms, etc. And after I had figured that out, I was promptly moved to a different stack, and I've honestly been switching stacks quite frequently ever since. I've learned everywhere from Ruby on Rails, Node.js, Angular, React. I switch stacks frequently, and that's been a challenge, but eventually what I determined was it's best to learn the similarities and the concepts behind all of the common languages and focus in on that and just have the skills to research a new technology, a new language as you need to, and learn that as you need to instead of trying to become really expert or dug into a particular language because tech changes quite a lot. So the ability to swap and to address that challenge of swapping tech stacks is really valuable. That on-call is a frequent job requirement for most software engineering roles. Some offer compensation or rewards for working on call, but most don't. And I don't think that's really generally a popular thing to discuss when talking about getting into software development. On call is generally something you kind of hear for doctors and I don't know, other people with more hands-on, high-risk roles. But software engineer are generally required to be on call, and depending on the size of your team, you might be on call from anywhere from once a year to every 2 weeks. So keep that in mind while going into tech. Like many others, I've had my fair share of mistakes, such as having a bad code deployment or missing an edge case in a data migration. I can't say that there's a specific mistake that stands out to me, but when a mistake happens, I'd say the most critical thing is, don't play the blame game. Collaborate, get help, whatever is needed to resolve the issue. Make a meeting, pull in superiors, but ultimately resolve the issue, and then afterwards have a postmortem discussion to see, what could have prevented the issue, what you could have done better. Because at the end of the day, if you have a good working environment, your team should really be the ones to help you recover. And another day you're going to be that team member helping out someone else who made a mistake. It's inevitable. So generally contribute to a good working environment and don't worry so much about the mistake. Just be prepared to address it. And that's the best advice I have there. I would say the biggest advice I can offer is ask for help more, ask questions when needed. I didn't ask for enough help when I was a junior dev. I had gotten used to figuring things out on my own when I had left college. But that's not always how it works in industry. Sometimes you might be working with completely out-of-date documentation or encountering a known error that no one has documented or mentioned to you yet. And there will never be a way for you to know unless you reach out to somebody and ask for help. That is the best way forward. And even if it's something that you would be able to eventually figure out, if you're just starting in industry, generally a senior engineer might just be able to instantly recognize your problem and set you straight within like 5 minutes instead of you spending an extra 4 hours banging your head against the wall. So asking for help and then learning as you ask for help is probably the best recommendation I can make.